What's up, LEGO builders? Welcome back to Coconut Brick Studios. Ever since the LEGO Ideas Globe has been released, I've wanted to do a Star Wars build with it. I think it's just that large, round exterior that's really appealed to me, and the obvious choice would be a Death Star mock, but that was done pretty quickly, and to be honest, I just didn't have much interest in building one of those, so I put the idea on the back burner for a while. And then one day, I was hit with the perfect idea.
It's kind of nice up here, though.
There is another large round ship in the Star Wars galaxy, and it's even in one of my favorite eras. Starkiller Base from the sequels. Definitely not. It's the Separatist core ship featured during the Battle of Geonosis and seen later throughout the Clone Wars. Huge, round, and not overly detailed. I thought this would be the perfect candidate for this challenge, but as you'll see in a second, this was much easier said than done. And of course, it wouldn't be enough to just build the core ship, so I'm also going to be building a battle scene to go along with it. If you're excited to see me suffer through some tedious builds, don't forget to execute Order 66 on that like button, and let's get started. Before I get into the meat of the build, I need to do some serious planning, because this is no simple 1 hour or 30 minute build. This is a complex 2,000 plus piece project that I don't fully know how to build yet. So I want to figure out my process for this whole thing and what to build first. I'm gonna organize the bags and get rid of the ones I won't be using. Next, I want to know how this build comes together. The instructions show what bags build which sections, which is really helpful. Maybe that's how all instructions are these days, I don't know, as I've evolved beyond building mere sets. Just kidding, I'm just too poor to buy them now because of Coruscant.
Where is it? You never give it to an ordinary citizen. Where is it?
I'm going to start with the globe build before anything else, since that's the focal point of the mock, and if I can't get that right, this whole video is going to crash and burn. I'm going to build it following the instructions, but swap out all the colored stuff for gray parts. This thing is pretty simple at its core. A bunch of panels connected together around a Technic frame. I'm building the middle row of panels first, and boy, I was not ready for how tedious this build would be. I normally only build LEGO Star Wars sets, so even if the build is boring and repetitive, I still have a cool ship or vehicle to look forward to at the end, but I can't imagine putting in this much work to be rewarded with a LEGO globe. Once the middle row is done, it's time to build the Technic frame that goes inside. Here I ran into my first big problem. I attached two pieces wrong but didn't notice, and so I spent way too long trying to get the two halves to connect, even wondering if the picture in the instruction manual had been printed wrong or messed up, only to realize it was right and I was just a fool. After I finished crying myself to sleep in shame, I woke up and got the frame finished and attached it to the middle row of panels, and for some reason I had to add wheels to the inside of the build. I didn't realize this was part of the new wave of Speed Champion sets. Now I'm making the big rounded panels that give the globe its shape. When I first thought of the idea for this challenge, I was thinking of just getting a parts list for this set and only buying what I needed to build the globe instead of buying the whole set, which at over $200 seems like a lot to spend for one video. I'm glad I just bought the set. It saved me a ton of time and tedious work, having everything bagged and sorted, and made the filming and building process much easier. But I'm starting to build up quite a pile of dark blue plate, half of which I have no idea what to do with.
The gang's all here.
And here we come to one of the biggest problems I had while building this. There's a rare 2x6 wedge plate that is key to all of the panels lining up correctly, and I completely overlooked it. So I had to scramble to come up with a workaround, and luckily I found that a 2x3 wedge plate with 1x2 tiles on top and bottom give me a similar angle and shape. It's not as seamless as the original piece, but it's good enough to allow me to continue, which was a huge relief because there are few things worse than getting fully immersed into a video or build and having to stop because of missing pieces. Each panel connects pretty easily and clips into the top of the build, which makes for a very strong yet flexible structure. I can hold it and even toss it around and nothing breaks, so major props to the designers of this. Making an accurate, good-looking build that is also very strong is very tough. It took me a few hours to get to this point. After all that tedious, repetitive building, I sat back and realized I have to do it all over again for the top half.
Please, no! 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 No!
But the good news for you guys is you don't have to sit through all of that, and the second half went by much quicker as I was more familiar with the building process. At last I got the panels built and added to the globe, and then placed a large 10x10 dish on the top and bottom to cover up the exposed frame, and the globe build is done. I'm gonna take a break from the core ship and build the terrain and mock that it will be hovering above. I didn't want to just build the core ship and be done. I wanted to make a little battle scene to better display it. In particular, I'm building the scene during the Battle of Geonosis where the core ships are trying to escape while taking fire from Republic SPHA cannons. I added a small crater at one end to represent where the core ship had been sitting, and that's about all of the detail this landscape is going to get, since the plains of Geonosis are about as exciting as a pop quiz at school. The other side will have some splashes of medium nougat as well. I would have liked to have made this mock a little bit bigger, but even this small one is stretching my dark tan collection pretty thin. Once the terrain is done, it's time to build some micro SPHA cannons. I've been wanting to build a large scale one of these for a long time, and building one in micro scale is only making me want to do it more. Maybe I'll have to do that large scale Geonosis mock sooner than I was planning. For how small these were, they took a while to design, especially the front. These things look so weird. So it was hard to design something that actually looked accurate and not just a blocky rectangle. I decided that 3 of these would be just the right amount for the mock, and the finished result turned out pretty good. I know I didn't add the correct number of legs on the underside, but at this small of a scale you can't always include everything. I also added a couple of Techno-Union ships that are not in the right proportion to anything, but I wanted to make sure the terrain didn't look too empty, and there wasn't much else I could add on the separatist side of things. Now it's time to get back to the core ship and add the landing gear, towers, and satellites. The ship has 2 large towers sticking out of the top of the body. One is a military control tower which holds all kinds of communications equipment, and the other one holds luxury suites, VIP treasuries, and the bridge. The one you are seeing come together is the military control tower. They're pretty easy to build, just a tower of bricks with slopes, plates, and tiles to make it look more interesting. From what I read, these towers were where the higher ups and their stuff was located, and the lower rank you had, the further down in the ship you ended up. I have a Star Wars vehicle cross-sections book, and this ship is in there, and it is insane what they're capable of holding. They're practically mobile planets, and the separatists have so many of them. It was kind of tricky figuring out how these towers would connect to the ship, and in the end I decided that the best way would be to pull off the top section of 2 panels and create a hole the towers could slide into. It made the most sense to build the landing gear out of mostly Technic parts, since that would look more realistic than brick built legs. But that was a problem because I hadn't really thought about the legs very much and so didn't buy any pieces for them. So now I need to design 6 legs that are cool and somewhat accurate, but also only using pieces from my small Technic collection. The actual ship has more legs than that, but like I said earlier, scaling down builds means leaving out things because I felt like 8 legs would just look weird. Once the legs are done, it's time to connect 3 to each side of the ship, add the whole thing to the mock, and we are ready to go. Desperate to escape the relentless push of the newly revealed clone army, the Trade Federation evacuates their massive army transporting core ships from the surface of the planet Geonosis. Unfortunately for them, the nearest one to the Republic forces has only just taken off when it is hit by fire from multiple SPHA cannons. The combined firepower is enough to bring it crashing back down to the battlefield. This might be one of my favorite mocks I built this year, simply because of how unique it is. While not the biggest or the most detailed, it depicts a scene that is hardly ever done in LEGO, and showcases a ship that is very hard to build, especially at this size. And while the core ship is no masterpiece, I'm very proud of what I was able to do, especially considering this was kind of an alternate build challenge of sorts and not a full-blown mock series. The SPHA cannons turned out pretty great as well and added a lot of fun detail to the mock. I was also thinking about adding more tile to the ground to make it bigger in order to fit the core ship better because it hangs over the back and sides of the mock, but the more I look at it, the more I think this actually works in favor of the ship because it makes it seem even bigger and more dominant, like the mock can barely contain the core ship due to its immense size. This was by far the most fun I've had doing a building challenge, even with all the repetitive building I had to slog through, partly because I was so excited to build something I've never done before, and partly because it was a nice break from the landscape mocks I usually do. It was also nice that I had the whole frame already figured out for me. I definitely think this mock has earned a place among my permanent display pieces, but I want to revisit it in the future to possibly modify it and swap in the correct wedge plates. I also enjoyed the process of transforming a LEGO set into an epic LEGO Star Wars mock. And if you have any LEGO sets you would like to see me do as an alt build, let me know down below in the comments, as well as your favorite part of this mock, and I will catch you next time, but until then, happy building.